Hello my fellow R's and welcome back to another episode of A View from the Loft with me, P-Block Scudze. And in today's video we're going to be reviewing yesterday's game at home against Barnsley. We're going to be looking through the highlights and giving the players ratings and just generally talking about what exactly happened in yesterday's game. So going into this first game since the lockdown, QPR were actually unbeaten in 5. We'd had 2 draws and 3 wins, whereas Barnsley had suffered 2 losses but had 3 wins prior to that. Now QPR was sitting 13th in the table before yesterday's game on 50 points, whereas Barnsley were rock bottom with 34 points, 7 points adrift of safety. So the starting 11 for QPR looked something a little bit like this. I felt that this was our strongest possible 11, considering we had lost Mark Pugh and Grant Hall through them leaving the club. We also had Cameron out, who was suspended after getting sent off against Preston. So with Grant Hall leaving the club, Johan Barber was handed the captain's armband, and it was also his first time of partnering up with Connor Masterson in the central of defence. Lee Wallace being on the bench was the only other option who could be considered to be able to play at centre-back. Up front we had our main 3 attacking options in Chair, Osei Samuel and Easy, who would hopefully provide Jordan Hugill with some goal scoring opportunities. So despite being able to name 9 substitutes, QPR could only produce 7, with 3 of them being youngsters that barely featured at all in the first team all season. So that did really leave us light in the options of substitutes for this game. So with the sun shining and the pitch looking in a great condition, 3 PM came and we were ready to watch the hoops again. Football was finally back. Or was it? Let's check out the highlights and see how QPR got on against Barnsley. Okay, so as we can see, we start off with Barnsley on the attack, pumping the ball down the field. Something that happened quite often in the opening few minutes. So there we could have seen, a couple of tackles that could have been given as fouls. Personally, maybe a little bit soft, looking back on it now. But the problem was though that once Osei went down, our players stopped and Masterson then was out of position. So then the ball was played through to Iheanacho, and 7 minutes in he slotted the ball home to make it 1-0. Really poor on our behalf for letting him get through like that, I mean, one thing they didn't show was that literally 3 minutes later, Barnsley managed to sort of dance down the right wing and created another opportunity where they really should have gone 2-0 up. The ball was played into Jacob Brown, and he opened his body up too much, and the ball did go wide. But realistically, he should have put that away and made it 2-0. So in the 22nd minute, we got a free kick, and Easy wasted it. I don't think he meant to go for that shot. It was one of those that he got it wrong and ended up not crossing the ball and hitting straight at the keeper, and it did just go over. Now another highlight that wasn't shown in this was in the 34th minute. We actually had a free kick in a similar position. This time Easy did manage to cross it, and Masterson was at the back post, literally 6 yards out. And as he's connected with it, he smashed it high, and it's just gone straight over the bar. Again, one of those where it was we should have scored that. It was an absolute sitter. Problem for Masterson, I think it was because it was on his weaker foot. And then realistically, the rest of the half, you could just see. Look, I mean, Barnsley just running rings around us and having opportunities. Luckily our defence was on hand to make some important blocks, but I mean, this one was a bit of a mess. Kelly was beaten. Luckily it came off the bar, and then luckily we blocked it their forwards supposedly hit it wide, but I think actually we got the block on that. So I hope that there were strong words had at half time in the dressing room, because there was only one team in it in the first half, and that was Barnsley. For a team that are in the relegation zone, they looked like they were pushing for promotion, and we wouldn't look like the ones that were in the relegation zone. So we start off the second half here, and after giving the ball away, again Barnsley just started the more brighter of the two teams. Bit of a half chance there, nothing major to worry about really. But we got the ball away, and then on the 68th minute, this was our first major chance of the game. Hugill put Hugill put Easy in, and Easy, danced around their defence, let go of the ball and had a terrific shot, but it was just too high, and it was just so unfortunate, because if that had hit the back of the net, I think that the game would have turned for sure. And of course, if it had have been on target, the keeper was well and truly beaten. And then after this, we started to play our football, and in the 88th minute, Easy this time put Hugill through, and Hugill was ahead of the defence. I couldn't understand why he decided to go with the outside of his boot and not try and smash it or place it. I mean, if anything, we might have got a corner out of it if it hadn't have hit the back of the net, but it was a real poor decision from Hugill to not take the shot and try and hit it with the outside of the boot. And so after that chance, that was it, the game finished. After 3 months of waiting for football to be back, it finished QPR 0, Barnsley 1. So let's take a look at the final stats from the game. So by looking at the stats, the majority of them state that QPR were the better team, although watching the game itself, it definitely wasn't the case. Although we did have 60% of possession compared to their 40, they did have more shots, but we both had equal on target there with 2. Off target we had 6, Barnsley having 6 blocked attempts. And even at the end, our passing would seem to be really good, 72% there compared to their 60. And as seen in the highlights, we had 2 clear-cut chances which we didn't take, whereas Barnsley had their 1 and they took it. Barnsley had a lot of corners, that was due to us making all those blocks. Offsides were quite even. Even the tackling there, we had the better percentage of tackles, and even more so in the aerial duels. And as you can see, we also won more fouls than we did commit. So with all those stats and highlights, let's take a look at how I rated each player that played in yesterday's game. Okay, so starting off with Liam Kelly in goal. He didn't really have a great deal to do, so that's why I've given him a 5. Pretty average game, to be fair. Next up, Rangel Angel. I've given him a 4 because I felt that he had too many wayward passes, especially the ones in the air. They did seem to go to Barnsley quite a lot. So Johan Barber, I gave a 5. He made some decent blocks, but as captain I felt he needed to talk more to the players. Other than that, just a pretty average game. Connor Masterson, I gave him a 4 because of him being caught out of position for their goal. Other than that, he had a fairly decent game, but you can tell he's still young and inexperienced. Ryan Manning, I felt like this was his worst performance so far. He looked so out of depth all over the pitch, whether he was playing at left back or in midfield when Lee Wallace came on, so that's why I had to give him a 2. I was very disappointed with Ryan Manning yesterday. Luke Amos, another player I had to give a 2 because I don't even think he had a touch of the ball, did he? I think he was the right sub at half time, and I can see him not starting the game against Charlton. Dominic Ball, I thought he had a strong performance in midfield, and in fact he looked more of a captain than Barber did. That's why I'm giving him a 6. I felt he had a really good game. Elias Chair, I felt like he had a very quiet game and created very few chances, and so for that I had to give him a 4. I do expect better from Chair. Bright Osei Samuel, again I had to give him a 4 because he was marked out of the game, so for that he couldn't really create much. He did have a couple of chances in the second half, but generally Barnsley had their game plan of keeping him out of the game, and I think they executed it very well. Abiri Easy. Now I've given Easy a 5. He had a great chance to score and was really unlucky to not keep that shot down. But other than that, I felt like, for the most parts of the game, it was just an average game for him. Second half was a lot more better though. Jordan Hugill. Well, Jordan wasted a really great chance, and realistically, throughout the game, he just looked unfit and had a really poor game in my view, and that's why I had to give him a 3. Olamide Shodipo. Now, he was the first of the subs to come on at half-time, and I felt like he made a massive difference, and it was really exciting to watch. He definitely seemed to, give that left wing a real good pace, and so for that, I gave him a 6. Definitely excited to see what else he can do for us in the near future. Lee Wallace. He did his job when coming on, but other than that, it was just an average game for him. I gave him a 4 because he didn't really have massive impact on the game itself. Todd Kane. He wasn't on long enough to have any real effect on the game, came on quite late, and so for that I had to give him a 3. So overall, it really was a deflating performance against Barnsley. After the game, I just felt mentally drained from watching such a poor performance and yet being so excited before kick-off. It should have been a winnable game from the start. It should have been one that QPR should have been playing Barnsley off the pitch, but instead we got a lacklustre, half-hearted shell of a team performance, and it came across like the team just didn't really know each other. I know 3 months have passed since the Preston game due to the lockdown, but this was a completely different team and it was all for the wrong reasons. Credit to Barnsley, they were the better team for most parts of the game, and they came with a plan and a fight to claw themselves out of relegation, and they executed it really well. It's something that I'd like to see QPR take going into the next game against Charlton. However, I do feel that without having a crowd at Loftus Road, it really does make a difference, and they're not a good one either for QPR. Because in the second half, they would have fed off of our energy and our drive, and I think it would have totally turned the game on its head and made a massive difference to the performance and the final score in the end. So going into the Charlton game, we will have Cameron back, and I hope that helps. But other than that, I can't see there being many changes due to the lack of options. So hopefully the team trains hard and well this week, and we can make a 180-degree turnaround in what we've seen in yesterday's game. Because what we saw in yesterday was just unacceptable, considering how well we've been playing right up until the point of the lockdown. Well, there you go, guys. That was my review of yesterday's game against Barnsley. I hope you enjoyed the review. If you've liked this video, make sure you give it a like. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and the bell so that you can keep up to date with all my latest videos. Well, other than that, I'll be seeing you guys soon against the Charlton game. And other than that, as always, come on, you R's.